thank you to our hosts of the Academy of Science and the Institute of Applied Physics in Shanghai, and to ITEO for organising this fantastic third international conference on thorium. I should just say a few words about why I'm here and who I am. Essentially, I'm not a scientist. I'm an accidental politician. But I'm here in my capacity as the patron of the Weinberg Foundation, which was set up in 2008, based in the UK, but very much hoping to have an international outlook. And the Weinberg Foundation exists to promote a vision of sustainable, cheap, and safe nuclear power. I first became aware of thorium about 4 years ago when I took part in a conference about solutions for climate change. And Kirk Sorensen at that time presented his vision of a future based on molten salt thorium reactors. And at that point, I would say I would describe myself as anti-nuclear. And it was a great surprise to me to hear that there was a whole other form of nuclear power that I'd never heard about, and that had to have so much potential. So I became very interested in it. But I've been asked today to talk a little bit about nuclear power in the UK. So the UK has a great history of innovation in nuclear power. In 1956, the world's first commercial-scale reactor was switched on by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II at Calder Hall in Windscale, now known as Sellafield. Unfortunately, a year later, the UK was also host to the very first nuclear accident, in that our Windscale piles, which was a reactor used for production of weapons-grade material, melted down, suffered an accident, caught fire. And ever since then, the UK has had a very, very keen interest in the safety of nuclear power. And that has driven our innovation. Our nuclear power stations in the UK are varied. We have had many different designs. We've experimented with many different systems. I have produced just 3 here. The top reactor on the right is a Magnox reactor. This was our first reactor design that we deployed. It was a gas-cooled, magnesium oxide-fueled reactor. And it was inherently quite safe. It had a very low power density. So even if there was a coolant accident, it could not melt down. This was a very important feature. But we also wanted to try to increase the efficiency, the thermal efficiency. So then we moved to advanced gas-cooled reactors. We also experimented with helium-cooled reactors. This schematic here, the diagram, is of the Dragon reactor, which was built in Winfrith in the UK. This was a helium-cooled reactor. This was a very novel, and the scientists who worked on it believed it was a very safe and very good reactor design. And the bottom picture is our fast reactor at Dounreay. This was also a very successful experiment, and unlike other fast reactors in other parts of the world, it operated quite smoothly. But we took no chances. If you look at the map, Dounreay is situated at the very, very far north, where there is almost nobody who lives there. So we knew it was an experimental design using sodium-potassium mixture of coolant. And so we located it somewhere that we felt it was the safest place to put it. Which brings me on to nuclear energy in the UK today. Currently we have 17 reactors at different sites around the country. It produces around 11 gigawatts of capacity, so similar to China's existing capacity. It has diminished in its percentage of electricity over the years. At its height, it was providing around 20% of our electricity. Now it has gone down to around 16%, as some of the older Magnox stations have closed. So still, we are very much a country that is reliant on fossil fuels. We still rely on gas for the majority of our electricity, and we have a still very high reliance on coal. We too have challenging targets to meet for our renewable energy. And we are hoping to see a much greater increase in the use of renewable electricity, particularly from wind, where we have a very high resource in the North Sea and other offshore parts of the country, but also a whole range of renewable technologies, including biomass and solar and other renewables, including tidal and wave power. But we also have a desire to maintain our nuclear capacity, since it is it's a proven source of low carbon energy for the UK. But as you'll see from the map, the key here shows that nearly all of our stations will be shut by 2025 currently, and by 2040 all of them will close. So this is the situation. And we have not commissioned a new nuclear power station in the UK since Sizewell B, which was completed in 1995. So what is our current position today? We have a legally binding target for climate change, which commits us to reducing our emissions of greenhouse gases by 80% by 2050. And this is enshrined in the Climate Change Act, which we passed through our Houses of Parliament. And I feel very proud to have been involved in the creation of that law, which is now governing how the UK thinks about its energy policy. We are very concerned about climate change, but equally, we share China's concerns about energy security, energy independence. And as we have enjoyed decades of reliance on gas resources, we had lots of gas in the North Sea. This is now coming to an end. We are seeing less and less gas production in the UK. We're becoming more and more reliant on imports. So we seek energy independence as well. And what we are doing in relation to nuclear, our first task will be to probably extend the lives of our existing nuclear stations so that they do not close as soon as perhaps we thought at first. But we're also very interested in replacing our existing capacity with new nuclear reactors. And there are proposals to secure the building of up to 16 gigawatts of new capacity by 2025, much less than China is proposing, but still, for a country of our size, a considerable endeavor. And we are very different to China in how we fund these programs. We must rely on the private sector. We have a liberalized energy market. We must seek investment from the private sector companies who operate in our country and in the rest of the world. But we are, as government, trying to pave the way to allow this investment to take place. And we have 2 reactor designs that have gone through a generic licensing procedure, which means that they are approved in general terms for deployment in the UK. And they are both pressurized water reactor designs, the AP1000 and the EPR from Areva. We have also identified 8 potential sites around the country where these reactors can be built, and they have been mentioned in a national planning statement, which is designed to help us to get permission to build on these sites through the planning process. But perhaps the most controversial aspect is the degree to which we are going to support the industry through subsidy. In a liberalized market, it is very hard to secure investment for very capital-intensive projects which have a long payback period and a considerable amount of risk. So the government is producing new legislation that will be published in the next few months that will provide a financial support mechanism for nuclear power in the UK. And the method they will choose is a contract for difference, where the power company is given a guaranteed rate of return relative to the wholesale price. This will apply not just to nuclear, but to all low-carbon forms of power. So it will help offshore wind, tidal, and all sorts of other projects to come forward, carbon capture and storage on coal. We are also in parallel developing a long-term strategy for our nuclear power. I am very impressed by China's long-term vision. We have not had a long-term strategy for nuclear fission for many, many years, arguably never. So this is our first long-term plan. And this was stimulated by a report by the House of Lords. I'm a member of the House of Lords, but I was not involved in this report. But this was a very influential report. It was quite critical of the government. It said that we were not paying sufficient attention to the nuclear industry. We were being too laid back, too casual in expecting industry to provide us with solutions. That we must, as a government, invest in skills, in R&D, and in helping this industry to contribute. The government has now responded and is in the process of preparing a long-term strategy and a research and development roadmap. And I'm delighted that my colleague Robert Arnold from the UK government is here today. And if there are any complicated questions about this process, Robert may be able to answer. But they are working very hard to produce this strategy by the end of the year. So we look forward to this. And what we hope to see is that there will be a renewal of our investment in research and development for nuclear fission. We do still invest in nuclear research for fusion, but we have not invested in R&D for fission, which I think is problematic because fission is available today, and we must invest in making it the most safe and reliable form of nuclear power that we can imagine. So I will just quickly mention about the UK's experience with molten salts and thorium in the UK. Since forming the Weinberg Foundation, I'm delighted to say that we have uncovered many documents relating to a research program that was carried out in the UK between 1964 and 1974 into molten salt reactors. Now, they were not necessarily focused on thorium, but they were looking to build on the work of Oak Ridge and of Alvin Weinberg's team carried out in the 50s. And we took a very different path. We wanted to build on the experience of Oak Ridge. So we looked at a double loop system with lead cooling, and it was a fast reactor. This was innovative, even in those days. And the documents have now been released. They were confidential documents, but they're now in the public domain. So the Weinberg Foundation will be cataloging them and making them available. The science is not new. It's quite old now, but I think it shows that in that period, in the 60s and 70s, there was great imagination. There was great enterprise and innovation in the nuclear scientists that we had. And that is the spirit we must try and recapture. I mentioned the Dragon reactor also because that did actually run for part of its time on thorium. So we have experience of using thorium in reactors in the UK. And we are very, very pleased and proud to be the home of very excellent work on accelerator-driven ADSR reactors. And Bob Sawinski from Huddersfield University is a great advocate, and I know he will speak about this later in the conference. But that is one of the ways in which the UK is advancing this discussion about thorium. We are also proud to be involved in the production of thorium MOX fuel. The NNL, National Nuclear Laboratory, based in Sellafield, is working with a Norwegian company, Thorium Energy, again, who will speak at this conference, about the fabrication of solid fuel thorium for application in today's reactors. We also have a molten salt expert group that has been newly established. And this is building on our expertise in the use of molten salts for fuel reprocessing. And I think this is a very important aspect of the project. If we go to a fully liquid reactor design, the reprocessing aspect will be very important. And the UK already has experience of reprocessing with molten salts to reprocess fuel. And I'm very pleased to say that we have a representative from the National Nuclear Laboratory here today. Tim, where is Tim? Can you put your hand up? Tim is sitting at the back here, who hopefully can talk more about our expertise and the salt loops that we have had in the past and that we have today that can help with this area of work. And the list of universities involved in that project is on this slide. Cambridge University, Manchester University, Edinburgh University. This is a cross-university collaboration project. And then finally, I think there is a great excitement that we are also hear that some work is being done on small-scale reactors, modular reactors, for use in the naval fleets and shipping. And that work is being done through a collaboration between Rolls-Royce and the Dalton Institute, also in Manchester. So there is a lot going on in the UK, and I'm very proud that we have been able to uncover all of this expertise, and as the Weinberg Foundation, we hope we can join this together and help to promote greater collaboration. So, but why is the UK so interested? I mean, we talked about the concerns, of political concerns about security, but the reason that I'm passionate about this is because I truly believe we need to solve climate change. And I believe that Alvin Weinberg was an incredibly prescient and forward-thinking man. He wasn't just a brilliant nuclear engineer. He also was deeply concerned about the environment and about social issues. He remained deeply skeptical that the designs of the PWR, the pressurized water reactor, which he himself had helped design, he felt that they had inherent problems, that their safety was not as high as it needed to be if we were to see mass deployment of nuclear energy. And if actually we saw how dangerous the impact can be on the nuclear industry if there are accidents. Fukushima has had a big impact, but this was just the latest in a series of accidents that began with Windscale in the UK, 3 Mile Island in America, Chernobyl in Russia, Fukushima. 4 accidents may not be many, but it's 4 too many. And Alvin Weinberg already predicted that this would be an issue, and that was why he was so interested in other innovative forms of nuclear power, including the molten salt reactor. So we have set up the Weinberg Foundation in his name, and we hope to further his work and to promote the vision that he had. The way we are working is we've established an all-party parliamentary group in the British Parliament. These are interest groups that bring together parliamentarians, lawmakers who have an interest in particular topics. And there are at least 20 of us now, drawn from both the House of Commons and the House of Lords, who share an interest in exploring thorium and molten salt reactors and promoting them to the wider government. And I think it's fair to say as well that the public in the UK is supportive of nuclear power. In fact, just this week, there has been a bit of a fuss about a poll that was asked of the UK government what they think about energy. And it showed that actually they are very supportive of renewable energy and nuclear energy, and that they believe that it is something that we should do more of. And this is interesting, even post-Fukushima, we have remained strongly supportive of nuclear power. I think this is because as a nation we are educated and aware about climate change, and we understand that we need very dense sources of energy to solve that problem. So I will just finish with a few words about a vision for the future. We all live on a very fragile, small planet. It's our home. There is no other home that we can go to that we know of. We must work to ensure that we can live sustainably on this planet. And I believe the UK, China, the world needs a sustainable form of nuclear energy that can carry it through to the many hundreds of years of safe energy use. Clearly, the burning of fossil fuels is damaging our home, when we must take great action to move away from that. The vision that a sustainable nuclear future based on thorium provides is very exciting. Not only could it provide a very affordable power, but it is a source of high temperature heat. There are not many forms of renewable energy that give you high temperature heat. So if we want to maintain industrial capabilities, production of chemicals, steel, fertilizers, we need heat. And nuclear heat, high temperature reactors, are one of the only ways that we can do this. But in addition, we may solve our waste problem. There are certain configurations of reactors that can burn up our nuclear waste that causes such a problem for many people, that causes people to be suspicious of the industry. This is an excellent potential additional benefit. But it doesn't stop there. We've also heard about how nuclear can be used to generate synthetic fuels, can be used to power grids to have electric vehicles. We truly can reach a fully zero carbon economy if we have large sources of zero carbon energy. And finally, in certain configurations of molten salt reactors, you are able to extract very valuable medical isotopes that can contribute to diagnostics that can save people's lives. So people say, why should we do this? I say, why shouldn't we? There are so many great reasons to do this. As I say, it is a challenge for our generation to leave this planet in a form that is habitable for many, many future generations. And I'm delighted that China is leading on this very, very most important topic. And I hope that the UK can make some contribution and that we soon too will stop talking and start acting. Thank you very much.
In your presentations, you have mentioned you have the growing interest in UK for the nuclear energy. You have shown our party, some organization in the parliament to promote nuclear energy and the dedicated for the survey. I'm not so clear.
Oh, was it for just nuclear or for thorium? Is the question? It's just for thorium. The all-party parliamentary group, there are many groups like this, special interest groups. There is already one for nuclear energy, but our one is specifically looking at thorium. And it has attracted great interest. We have had a number of meetings and gathering of our interested groups, and we hope to have many more. And it's a very effective way of raising the profile amongst Parliament to win more support for this important cause.
The support is still in the talking stage and have been.
Well, I think actually there is actually action happening. There are people in the audience who know more in terms of the academic research that is happening, but we are definitely active in the use of molten salts. We have been forever. We've been interested in molten salts since the 1950s and 60s, so it's there. But our focus in the UK has been, I think it's safe to say, on decommissioning and waste management. We have not focused on innovation or R&D in fission. That has not been happening. We've done great work on fusion, but not on fission. So we are reawakening and finding and hopefully recovering our spirit of innovation and scientific exploration now.
Very nice talk, and you just raised a very interesting point about the energy market in the UK is liberalized, so that creates some uncertainty in terms of the R&D and so on and so forth. And here in China, the energy market is still, I would say, I shouldn't say control, but majority of the energy market here is still a country centralized, I would say, in that way. So if that's the market-driven economy in the UK, even in the US, how does government support in the R&D of this new technology will be translated into the marketplace? Because that turned out to be the situation. The R&D needs to be sustainably supported not only by the government, but also by the marketplace.
Yeah, no, completely. This is the big challenge, I think, that we face in the West, that we do not have. We used to have central planning for electricity, but no longer. And we have a very fragmented market with competing companies who sometimes have quite a short-term vision, whereas we need a long-term vision. So the way that the government helps supplement this is by grants, research grants, development grants, initially. But then there is this potential valley of death where you have a commercially proven technology, but it's not yet competitive in the market. And then you need to have market interventions to support those technologies. At the moment, we are supporting technologies. We support wind, we support biomass, we support tidal and wave. And new nuclear, innovative nuclear, will have to receive support to enable it to be deployed in the market. But we have found ways of deploying technologies ahead of their commercialization. And I think we can do the same with nuclear. At the moment, we are preparing to support existing pressurized water reactor designs, which arguably have had 30, 40 years of support already, don't need it anymore. So I would like to see more money going into the modular reactors, the different designs, which do genuinely deserve a subsidy to bring them to the market. So it's a different approach, but I hope that ultimately we can achieve a similar goal.
really striking to see that even though the scale of things is different, I mean, the strategies and the issues are quite similar between the UK, China, and I think this is also the case for many other countries in the world. So why is it that since we are facing a global problem, which is global warming, we cannot organize a global response and coordinate the R&D related to thorium worldwide?
I think there will be hopefully collaboration at different levels, but in a way there is a benefit in diversity because each country may take slightly different routes to solve the problem, and in that way we might be able to explore different approaches and commercialize not all the same. If we just pick one solution and it doesn't work, then I think there's a risk. So there is benefit in diversity. And as the Weinberg Foundation, since we were set up, we have uncovered so many examples of different reactor designs using thorium, that even within thorium, which is itself a fairly small section at the moment, there is diversity. So a top-down approach, though it would be helpful, may actually undermine the diversity, which I think we're seeing in every country, and all the people represented here from different countries will have slightly different approaches. But in terms of solving climate change, absolutely, I think we need much greater top-down coordination. And we have the UNFCCC, but it has not really delivered much action. And we hope that in 2015, when the next treaty is negotiated, that we will see some action. But we can't rely on that. In the meantime, domestic, national approaches, national legislation, for essentially national reasons. I mean, I didn't mention it in my talk, but Dr. Jiang mentioned it. We also want jobs. We also want green growth. We also want clean skies. And so there are selfish reasons for us pursuing this, even in the absence of a global deal. In an ideal world, we will have a global framework, but even without that, we can do a lot through national measures, and then collaboration and talking to keep ourselves learning from each other.